We are back. We're better than ever. It's Locked on Buffs. It's Locked on College Football. Spencer McLaughlin. Spencer, I mean, we got teams in Los Angeles playing teams in New Jersey for conference play. We got teams in the Bay Area heading to Miami for conference play. And we have rivalries that have lasted for eons that are no longer being played. And one of those is Colorado and Nebraska. Now, I think it's an underrated rivalry, right? It's not Texas, Oklahoma. It's not the Army-Navy game, but it's still a fun rivalry. And I think these past 2 years have really invigorated the crowd around it because it's old school, like blue blood versus new school way of thinking and doing things in Colorado. And so they gave us great 2 matchups with Deion Sanders versus Matt Rhule. They're sort of on the same timeline coaching wise, but they don't play anymore, Spencer. And it makes me sad. And I think we need to make more of a concerted effort to play rivalry games in college football. What do you say about that in general and this game in particular?
What I said earlier on the show about college football being different, and sometimes that's bad, but sometimes it's really good. Rivalries are at the top of that list. College football rivalries hit so differently than the ones in the NFL. If you're just a Colorado fan, as you probably are listening to or watching this show, or whoever else you are a fan of, if you can tell me about a specific Steelers-Ravens game, great. Good for you. I watch the NFL every week. This is not me coming on here. The NFL sucks. It's all college football. Watch my show. No. It's not anything like that. I love the NFL. It's great. To pretend, and I hope most people aren't, that the urgency or intensity around rivalries in the NFL is a major fraction of what it is in college football, it is just that, pretending. It is pretending. And so I don't think that this is a, tier 1 rivalry, the Iron Bowl. Or right. If I just say Iron Bowl, you have 2 games, at least I do, and many of you do as well, that come into your head of what you envision in that game. Chris Davis with the kick six, and then the fourth and 31. Like
the Gravedigger, I believe is what it was called.
Is that what they call it? Yeah,
yeah.
But again, I see that play in my head when I hear Iron Bowl, and I of course go to Chris Davis. There goes Davis. Yeah, it's an incredible call by the late Rod Bramblett. So I think that the ability for college football to have that is something that needs to be cherished. And it's why I've discussed on my show previously that the USC Notre Dame rivalry cannot go away. Now, I think USC Notre Dame is in maybe that, tier 2 of college football rivalries, and Colorado and Nebraska is kind of, at least to younger college football fans like myself and many others, probably more in the tier 3 sort of range. Yep. But just think about it from, a neutral standpoint. Do you want to watch Colorado and Nebraska play? Yeah, of course you do, because you're going to go through the non-conference slate, circle that game, and go, oh, that could be a resume booster for either of those teams. Oh, that's a measuring stick game for both of those programs. Those are recognizable brands. Like, I don't have a history of that rivalry ingrained into my psyche, but it's definitely one that can continue to become that if they would just play the darn game. You got to play it. You got to let some chippiness come out. You got to let all the weird traditions. Alabama, Auburn had the guy poisoned a tree or something way back when. Like, that sort of stuff is not okay, but it only comes about when you actually care that much. And you can't get to that level if you don't play the game. And just because 2 teams are not in the same conference, that doesn't mean you can't do it. Colorado, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, plays Colorado State every year, right?
Almost every year, yeah.
And even though Colorado is in a better conference and is a higher caliber program, that's still a great game for Colorado State to have. I bet you a lot of the fans in Fort Collins remember that game where they almost beat Colorado in Boulder a couple of years ago. I remember watching it because when Colorado's profile raises, if Colorado State goes out there and plays a game like that, raises the level of that the profile of that program, right? So I think there are a lot of advantages to playing those sorts of games. Like, imagine if Clemson and South Carolina stopped playing. They don't. They play every single year. It's great. It was a great game last year. It has been in the past. when you have the opportunity to schedule a matchup that means a little bit more to those fans, can draw more of a national audience, and also has national relevance, you've got to find a way to play those games. Because if you're Colorado, you want quality non-conference opponents, I hope, right? If you're trying to build an at-large playoff resume, you've got to have good wins on there. Well, Nebraska is going to be one of those wins. Like, I know they just got to a bowl game for the first time in a while, but Matt Rhule's a good coach. And at the very least, you can get some brand building, because that's a game that people are going to watch in the non-conference slate. So I think there are just so many benefits and so few drawbacks, because, Colorado could get the same football outcome, from a resume standpoint, if they play Minnesota, for instance. Is that as interesting of a game to literally anybody? No, of course not. Of course not. And to pretend otherwise, I think, is foolish. And anytime, I hate that realignment crushed Texas A&M. I'm glad that realignment brought it back, but we've lost Kansas, Missouri over the years. That's kind of the tier that I'd put, Colorado, Nebraska in there. I'd like to see the Buffs and Cornhuskers continue to play. I would never want to see South Carolina and Clemson stop playing. You just keep going down the list. You've got to play those games. The in-state games between Florida and Miami and Florida State, phenomenal. Go play those games every chance you get. That's where I feel college football is going down somewhat of the right path.
Yeah, and I think people also forget that rivalries, granted, Texas and Texas A&M, always a great rivalry. Auburn, Alabama, has always been a great rivalry. But there was a point where they weren't like the best rivalries in college football. They had to grow into it, right? And you could grow into a rival. Like I talk about this all the time with Colorado and Spencer. This is who we're getting instead of Colorado State and Nebraska this year, because Colorado doesn't play either of them. They get Georgia Tech, which will be an interesting game, and Delaware and Wyoming. Woo! So we're missing out on rivalry games, right? And also Colorado had the same problem at our former employer, if you will, the Pac-12, right? You were locked on Pac-12. I was a Pac-12 PA.
All right.
And they didn't have a rival there. They were kind of that odd man out. They were the new kid at school that kind of ate lunch by himself and was like, hey, like nobody hated him, right? But nobody was like, yeah, that's my guy. Yeah, it's just like, it's Colorado.
Well, and I've thought about that before. I think the Pac-12, which I understand this wasn't one of their huge missteps that led to the downfall of it, of course. But the attempt when Colorado and Utah joined, which I thought was a good move for the league, they tried to pit those schools against each other, right? Mm-hmm. They put them during rivalry week, right? That's when they usually played, and they tried to make it's the mountain schools, and yeah, it never had. It's not that it wasn't an interesting game from time to time. I mean, Colorado wasn't good for most of it, so Utah got the better of them. But you can't force that stuff. You can't fake it. You can't rush it either. And so when you have already built in history to a particular matchup, you've got to take advantage of that. USC Notre Dame been playing for over a century. You can't just replicate that out of thin air. It doesn't work that way. And so when time and effort and dollars and all this stuff has gone into making a matchup what it is, I would not like to see that just thrown to the wayside.
Yeah, and my other point too is Nebraska is sort of, to me, and I could be wrong here, but Nebraska feels like that in the Big Ten, where it's like, everyone's like Ohio State's everyone's rival because everyone wants to beat the best team. Michigan's everyone's rival because they want to beat the biggest brand. But who is Nebraska's true rival in the Big Ten, right? I don't have a team that comes to mind. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? I feel like the
I don't think they have one.
Right. The teams most associated with them is Iowa, which they have other rivals. Minnesota, who I don't think moves the needle for anyone. Shout out to PJ Fleck, though. Keep rowing that boat.
He's solid. PJ Fleck's solid. It's nothing wrong with PJ Fleck. They were like an 8-win team last year.
It's fine.
He's good.
It's like Ross Geller said, I'm fine, right?
Yeah.
Two teams.
I'm fine.
Two teams that don't really have a rival that are passing on playing what could be a rivalry. And here's some of the storylines before we move on, right? You have Deion versus Matt Rhule, right? They both started coaching the same year or at these schools, right? Colorado, Nebraska, respectively. Two young quarterbacks, Dylan Raiola, Julian Lewis, they'd get to square off 1 or 2 times, right? You have that. You have, I mean, they split the series, if you will, right? Colorado won the first one, Nebraska won the second. So it's like there's so many fun storylines that are just being like, oh, well, maybe we'll circle back in 2037 when like nobody's here. It's like all these guys are well into their careers as real estate agents or the coaches are gone. But like, I just feel like it's one of the many things in college football that we struggle with, which is just doing the right thing. It feels like so many times lately, it's like, what's the right thing for the sport? Okay, I'm going to do the complete opposite. So bring back the rivalry, save it, preserve it, do whatever you got to do.